I'm talking to you. You can't just shut me out again. I am so tired of fighting.
Babe, just leave me alone.
The rain hammered against my apartment window like an unwelcome visitor demanding entry. I sat in my cramped Eastern European flat, eating cold pizza from a cardboard box, watching water streak down the glass. 6 months ago, I lived in a suburban house with a 2-car garage and a wife who smiled at dinner parties. Now I was Damon Vossel, expat IT specialist, living above a noisy street market in Prague, listening to vendors hawk vegetables in 3 languages I barely understood. My phone buzzed. Another message. Another friend feeling obligated to share the news I already knew was coming. Vera was getting married. Again. To Reid Trenner, the flashy investment advisor who wore $1,000 suits and drove cars that cost more than most people's houses. Did you see the photos? The text was from Jake Morrison, my former neighbor. The wedding's all over social media. I opened the link. There she was, my ex-wife Vera, radiant in white silk, her arm wrapped around Reid's tuxedoed frame. The venue looked like something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, marble columns, enough flowers to supply a funeral home for a month. The guest list read like a who's who of our old social circle. People I'd considered friends for 20 years, all celebrating the woman who destroyed my life. The irony wasn't lost on me. It took 2 decades to build what I thought was a solid marriage, a comfortable life, a circle of friends who mattered. Vera leveled it all in 2 months, faster than Reid could blow through money at a casino table. And from what I'd heard through the expat grapevine, that was saying something. I scrolled through the photos, my jaw tightening with each image. Vera looked radiant, but there was something in her eyes I recognized, the calculating gleam she got when she was working an angle. Reid looked nervous, sweating despite the air conditioning, tugging at his collar like a man who'd borrowed a suit that didn't quite fit. My phone rang. Jake again. Damon, man, I'm sorry you had to see this. I know it's tough. I'm fine, Jake. Really. The lie came easily. I'd had months to practice it. Listen, there's something else. I was at the reception. Things got weird. I sat up straighter, pizza forgotten. Weird how? Reid's business partner showed up drunk, started making a scene about missing money, frozen accounts, something about the SEC investigating their firm. Security had to escort him out, but not before he shouted some pretty specific numbers. Vera looked like she'd seen a ghost. After Jake hung up, I sat in the growing darkness, processing what I'd learned. Reid Trenner, the golden boy with the perfect smile and the perfect car, might not be so perfect after all, and Vera, who'd left me for his money and status, might have made a very expensive mistake. I opened my laptop and started typing. 20 years in IT had taught me how to find information people preferred to keep hidden. Reid's business, Trenner Capital Management, had a website full of glossy photos and vague promises about wealth optimization and exclusive investment opportunities. But a deeper dive into public records, SEC filings, and financial databases painted a different picture. The company was hemorrhaging money. Several clients had filed complaints about missing funds. Reid himself had a history of gambling debts, defaulted loans, and court judgments. The man Vera had married for his wealth was, by all appearances, broke. I leaned back in my chair, a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth for the first time in months. Vera had always been obsessed with appearances, with status, with being seen as successful and enviable. She'd thrown away our marriage for a mirage. But knowing the truth wasn't enough. Not after what she'd put me through. The humiliation, the lies, the way she'd turned our friends against me with her carefully crafted victim narrative. She'd painted me as the boring, neglectful husband while she was the poor, misunderstood wife seeking happiness elsewhere. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a friend sharing wedding photos. It was Vera herself, calling from what I assumed was her honeymoon suite. I stared at her name on the screen, remembering the last time we'd spoken. She'd been cold, dismissive, eager to finalize the paperwork and move on with her new life. What could she possibly want now? I let it ring until it stopped, then immediately blocked her number. Whatever crisis had prompted her to reach out, whatever crack in her perfect facade needed my help to repair, she could handle it herself. Instead, I opened a new browser window and searched for Reid's business partner, the man Jake had mentioned. Thomas Chen, according to the company website, co-founder and chief financial officer of Trenner Capital Management. It took me 15 minutes to find his personal email address. The message I sent was brief and anonymous. You might want to check your accounts. Your partner's wedding was expensive, and I doubt he used his own money to pay for it. I hit send before I could second-guess myself, then closed the laptop and went to bed. Outside, the market vendors were packing up their stalls, their voices echoing off the narrow street walls. Tomorrow would bring new possibilities, new opportunities to even the score. For the first time since my exile began, I slept soundly. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The next morning brought chaos, delivered courtesy of my old friend Jake and his inability to resist gossip. He called before I'd finished my first cup of coffee, practically vibrating with excitement. Damon, you're not going to believe what happened at the reception last night. After I called you, everything went sideways. I settled into my chair, laptop open, ready to take notes. Tell me everything. Around midnight, just as they were cutting the cake, this guy in an expensive suit storms in. Turns out he's some kind of federal investigator. Starts asking Reid questions about his business right there in front of everyone. Vera tried to intervene, but the guy had paperwork, official stuff. My coffee suddenly tasted better. What kind of paperwork? Asset freeze. Apparently someone tipped off the authorities about irregularities in Reid's accounts. His business partner was there too, and he was furious. Started yelling about missing client funds, unauthorized transfers. The whole thing turned into a circus. I made appropriate sympathetic noises while internally celebrating. My anonymous tip had worked faster than I'd hoped. That sounds terrible. How did Vera handle it? She completely lost it, man. Started screaming at the investigator, at Reid, at anyone who'd listen. The wedding photographer got it all on video before security confiscated his camera. Half the guests left before dessert was served. After Jake hung up, I spent the morning digging deeper into Reid's financial situation. The asset freeze was real, documented in federal court filings that had been posted online just hours earlier. Trenner Capital Management was under investigation for securities fraud, embezzlement, and operating an unlicensed investment scheme. Reid's personal assets, including his cars, his penthouse apartment, and his bank accounts, were all frozen pending the investigation. Vera had married a man who was, as of her wedding night, effectively penniless. I was still savoring this information when my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize, but the area code was familiar, back home. Damon? The voice was female, uncertain. It's Jennifer Walsh. From the old neighborhood? Jennifer. Vera's former best friend, until Vera decided Jennifer wasn't successful enough to be worth maintaining the friendship. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? I'm confused, honestly. I got this email this morning, and I thought you should know about it. My stomach tightened. What kind of email? From Vera's lawyer, some guy named Patterson. He's claiming you've been harassing Vera, stalking her online, sending threatening messages. He says they're considering a restraining order. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar weight of Vera's manipulation settling over me. Of course she'd try to flip the script, make herself the victim even as her perfect new life crumbled around her. Jennifer, I haven't contacted Vera at all. I'm living in Prague, for crying out loud. I figured as much. The thing is, he sent the same email to a bunch of people from our old circle, trying to get everyone to sign some kind of statement supporting Vera's version of events. And? Jennifer's laugh was bitter. And most of them are too scared of Vera to refuse. You know how she is. Cross her, and she'll make your life miserable. But Damon, I remember what really happened during your marriage. I remember the things she said about you behind your back, the way she manipulated situations to make you look bad. This was unexpected. In all the months since the separation, not one of our mutual friends had reached out to offer support or even ask for my side of the story. They'd all accepted Vera's narrative without question. Why are you telling me this, Jennifer? Because I kept records. Emails, text messages, voice recordings from when she'd call me to complain about you. I saved everything, thinking maybe someday I'd write a book about toxic friendships or something, but now I think you should have copies. Just in case. An hour later, my inbox was full of evidence I'd never known existed. Years of messages from Vera to Jennifer, detailing her plans to upgrade her marriage, her strategies for isolating me from friends, her careful cultivation of Reid while still married to me. There were screenshots of text conversations where she bragged about manipulating situations to make me look neglectful or uncaring. Audio files where she laughed about my pathetic attempts to save our marriage. But the most damaging evidence was recent. Messages from just days before the wedding where Vera admitted she wasn't sure about Reid's financial situation but was too invested to back out now. She'd known something was wrong and married him anyway, gambling that his problems would resolve themselves. I spent the afternoon crafting a response to Patterson's harassment claims. Not to him directly, but to the friends who'd received his email. I created a simple website, uploaded all of Jennifer's evidence, and sent a single message to everyone on Patterson's list. Before you sign anything, you might want to see the whole story. The truth is more complicated than you've been told. Within hours, my phone was ringing constantly. Friends who'd shunned me for months were suddenly eager to talk, to apologize, to distance themselves from Vera's sinking ship. The narrative was shifting, and Vera's carefully constructed victim story was falling apart. But I wasn't done. Not even close. That evening, I received a visitor. 2 sharp knocks on my apartment door, followed by a gruff voice speaking accented English. "Mr. Vossel, we need to talk." Through the peephole, I saw 2 large men in dark coats. They didn't look like police, but they didn't look friendly either. I'd been in Prague long enough to recognize the type. Local muscle, hired to deliver messages the sender didn't want traced back to them. "I'm not interested in whatever you're selling," I called through the door. "Mr. Trenner sends his regards. He suggests you stop interfering in his business." Reid. Of course. Even broke and under federal investigation, he was trying to intimidate me. The irony was almost amusing. "Tell Mr. Trenner I said congratulations on his wedding. I hope he and his new wife are very happy together." The men muttered something in Czech. Then I heard footsteps retreating down the hallway. But I knew this wasn't over. Reid might be financially ruined, but desperate men were often the most dangerous. I double-locked my door and returned to my laptop. If Reid wanted to escalate things, I was ready. 20 years of IT work had taught me that information was the most powerful weapon of all, and I was just getting started. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw your website. Impressive work. We should meet. JM. JM. I stared at the initials, trying to place them. Then it clicked. Jade Marin, my former co-worker from the tech company where I'd worked before the marriage imploded. We'd been friendly, though not close. She'd left the company around the same time my personal life started falling apart. But how did she know about the website? And more importantly, what did she want? I typed back, "How did you get this number?" The response came immediately. "I have my sources. Meet me tomorrow, 2 p.m., Café Louvre on Narodny. Come alone. Trust me, you'll want to hear what I have to say about your ex-wife and her new husband." I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Another player was entering the game, but whose side was she on? In my experience, when someone said, "Trust me," it usually meant you shouldn't. But curiosity won out over caution. I had nothing left to lose, and potentially everything to gain. "I'll be there," I typed back. Outside my window, the market was settling into its evening rhythm. Vendors calling out final prices, customers haggling over day-old bread, the eternal dance of commerce and survival. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities for revenge. I was starting to enjoy this game. Café Louvre was a Prague institution, all dark wood and brass fixtures, the kind of place where intellectuals had plotted revolutions over strong coffee and stronger cigarettes. I arrived early, choosing a table with clear sightlines to both entrances, old habits from too many corporate security briefings. Jade Marin walked in exactly at 2 o'clock, scanning the room with the same methodical precision I remembered from our shared projects. She'd changed since I'd last seen her, shorter hair, sharper clothes, the confident stride of someone who'd found their place in the world. She spotted me immediately and approached with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Damon Vossel, you look like Prague agrees with you." "It has its charms, though I'm curious how you found me here." She ordered coffee in fluent Czech, then turned back to me. "I make it my business to keep track of useful people, and right now, you're very useful indeed." "Useful for what?" "Destroying Reid Trenner, and by extension, your charming ex-wife." I studied her face, looking for tells. Jade had always been hard to read, but there was something personal in her tone when she mentioned Reid. "You know Reid?" "Oh, I know Reid very well. We were involved. About 2 years ago, before he set his sights on upgrading to a married woman with better social connections." The pieces started falling into place. "He left you for Vera. He used me to get close to your social circle, then discarded me when he found a better target. Sound familiar?" It did. Reid's pattern was becoming clear. He was a social climber who used relationships as stepping stones. But there was something else in Jade's expression, a calculating coldness that made me wary. "So, this is about revenge for you too." Revenge is such an ugly word. I prefer justice. Reid destroyed my business reputation when he left, spread rumors that I was unstable, obsessive, cost me clients, partnerships, opportunities. She pulled out a tablet, swiped to a folder labeled RT Evidence. But I've been collecting insurance ever since. The screen filled with documents, photographs, financial records, bank statements showing suspicious transfers, emails discussing creative accounting, photos of Reid at illegal gambling establishments, meeting with people who looked like they belonged in a crime drama. Reid's been running a Ponzi scheme for 3 years, Jade continued, taking money from new clients to pay returns to old ones, skimming millions off the top for his lifestyle. The federal investigation your anonymous tip triggered is just the beginning. I kept my expression neutral, but she caught my slight reaction to the mention of the tip. Oh yes, I know that was you. Nicely done, by the way. Very surgical, but you're thinking too small. What do you mean? You exposed his business problems, but Reid's got contingency plans. Offshore accounts, hidden assets, shell companies. He'll weather this investigation and rebuild somewhere else. Unless what? Unless someone with the right technical skills and the right motivation decided to make sure every single hidden asset got exposed. Every secret account, every illegal transaction, every dirty deal. She was talking about hacking. Serious federal crime-level computer intrusion. I shook my head. I'm not interested in going to prison. Who said anything about getting caught? Jade's smile was sharp. I've been planning this for 2 years. I know Reid's systems, his security protocols, his weaknesses, but I need someone with your particular expertise to execute it properly. And what do I get out of this partnership? Complete destruction of both their lives. Reid loses everything, money, reputation, freedom, and Vera gets to watch her meal ticket disappear while her own secrets get exposed. What secrets? Jade swiped to another folder. Your ex-wife has been busy since the divorce. Credit card fraud, using friends' information for unauthorized purchases. Identity theft, opening accounts in other people's names. She's been funding her lifestyle by stealing from the people who trusted her. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, credit reports, transaction histories. Vera had been systematically defrauding her own friends for months, probably longer. The amounts were significant. Tens of thousands of dollars stolen from people who'd welcomed her into their homes, their lives, their confidence. She's been using their social security numbers, their personal information, their trust, Jade continued, all to maintain the lifestyle Reid's fake wealth promised her. I felt something cold settle in my chest. The woman I'd been married to for 20 years, who I'd thought I knew completely, was a criminal. Not just an adulteress or a manipulator, but an actual thief who preyed on friendship and trust. How did you get all this? I told you, I make it my business to track useful information. Reid wasn't the only one who could play the long game. We spent the next hour going over her plan. It was elegant, comprehensive, and completely illegal, but it would also be devastatingly effective. Reid's hidden assets would be exposed to federal investigators. Vera's fraud would be documented and reported to authorities. Their entire carefully constructed life would collapse in a matter of days. I need time to think about this, I said finally. Of course, but don't take too long. Reid's already trying to move money offshore, and Vera's getting more desperate by the day. Desperate people make dangerous choices. As if summoned by her words, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop what you're doing or face consequences. This is your only warning. Jade read the message over my shoulder and laughed. Speak of the devil. Reid's feeling the pressure. How do you know it's from Reid? Because I've been monitoring his communications. He sent similar messages to 3 other people today. A journalist who's been asking questions about his business, a former client who filed a complaint with the SEC, and his ex-business partner who's been cooperating with federal investigators. She showed me the intercepted messages on her tablet. Same phrasing, same threatening tone, all sent from disposable phones that Reid had purchased with cash. He's panicking, Jade continued, making mistakes. This is the perfect time to strike. I looked around the cafe, suddenly aware of how exposed we were. If you can monitor his communications, what makes you think he can't monitor ours? Because I'm better at this than he is. Reid's a financial predator, not a technical expert. His idea of cybersecurity is using the same password for everything and hoping no one notices. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from Jennifer Walsh. Damon, thank God you answered. Something's happened. The police were just at my house, asking about identity theft, fraudulent credit card applications. They had my name, my social security number, records of accounts I never opened. I met Jade's eyes. She nodded grimly. Jennifer, I need you to listen carefully. Do you remember giving Vera any personal information recently? Social security number, mother's maiden name, anything like that? She helped me apply for a credit card last month. Said she knew someone at the bank who could get me a better rate. I gave her everything she asked for because I trusted her. That card application was probably legitimate, but Vera likely used your information to open other accounts without your knowledge. You need to contact the credit bureaus immediately, freeze your credit, file a police report. After I hung up, Jade was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "Still need time to think about my proposal?" she asked. I thought about Jennifer, trusting and naive, victimized by someone she'd considered a friend. I thought about the other people on Vera's target list, probably unaware that their identities had been stolen, their credit destroyed, their financial lives compromised. "What do you need me to do?" Jade's smile was triumphant. "I thought you'd see it my way. Meet me tomorrow night, 9 p.m. I'll text you the address. And Damon, bring your laptop. We're going to war." As I walked back through Prague's winding streets, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Purpose. For too long, I'd been reactive, responding to Vera's manipulations and Reid's threats. Now it was time to take control of the narrative. My phone buzzed one more time. Another unknown number, but this message was different. "Saw your website. Vera's lawyers are preparing a defamation lawsuit. Thought you should know." "A friend." I smiled. "Let them sue." By the time Jade and I were finished, Vera would have much bigger problems than defamation claims. She'd opened this war when she destroyed our marriage and started preying on innocent people. Now she was going to learn what total defeat felt like. The address Jade sent led to a converted warehouse in Prague's industrial district, the kind of place where tech startups and art galleries coexisted in an uneasy alliance of creativity and commerce. I found her on the 3rd floor, in what looked like a high-end cybersecurity operation. Multiple monitors, server racks, equipment I recognized but couldn't afford on my IT salary. "Impressive setup," I said, settling into the chair she indicated. "I've been building this for 2 years. Every piece of equipment, every software license, every security protocol designed for one purpose: taking down Reid Trenner." She wasn't exaggerating. The screens displayed real-time monitoring of Reid's communications, financial transactions, even his physical location via GPS tracking on his phone. It was comprehensive, illegal, and undeniably effective. "Before we start," I said, "I need to know something. What's your endgame here? After we destroy Reid and Vera, what happens to you?" Jade's fingers paused over the keyboard. "I disappear. New identity, new country, new life. I've been planning this exit strategy as long as I've been planning the takedown." "And me?" "You go back to your quiet life in Prague. Clean conscience, perfect alibi, and the satisfaction of knowing justice was served." She pulled up a new screen, showing Reid's current financial situation. The asset freeze had been more devastating than I'd realized. His business accounts were empty, his personal assets locked down, his credit destroyed. But there were still hidden accounts, offshore holdings that the federal investigators hadn't found. "This is where you come in," Jade said. "Reid's been moving money through a series of shell companies, using a proprietary trading platform that he thinks is secure. It's not." She showed me the system architecture, the security protocols, the access points. It was sophisticated but not impenetrable. With the right approach, we could expose every hidden transaction, every illegal transfer, every penny Reid had tried to hide from investigators. "How long do we have?" "Reid's planning to flee the country in 72 hours. Private jet to a non-extradition country, new identity waiting, enough hidden money to live comfortably for the rest of his life." "What about Vera?" Jade's smile was cold. "Reid's planning to leave her behind to face the consequences. Turns out your ex-wife's new husband isn't the loyal type." We worked through the night, mapping Reid's financial network, identifying vulnerabilities, preparing the digital tools we'd need. By dawn, we had a complete battle plan. Reid's hidden assets would be exposed, his escape route blocked, his carefully constructed new identity revealed to federal investigators. But Vera's destruction would be more personal. "She's been invited to speak at the Prague International Women's Business Summit tomorrow night," Jade said, pulling up the event details. 500 attendees, live streaming, major media coverage. She's planning to reinvent herself as a successful entrepreneur, distance herself from Reid's legal problems. "What kind of entrepreneur?" "Luxury lifestyle consulting, teaching other women how to optimize their social and financial potential. Basically, she's monetizing the manipulation skills she used to destroy your marriage." The irony was perfect. Vera was trying to profit from the same tactics that had made her a criminal and a pariah. But tomorrow night, her past would catch up with her in the most public way possible. "I've arranged for some of her fraud victims to be in the audience," Jade continued. "Jennifer Walsh, Patricia Morrison, Susan Chen, women whose identities she stole, whose trust she betrayed. They don't know they're victims yet, but they will by tomorrow evening." "How?" "Anonymous tips to the credit monitoring services, complete with documentation of the fraudulent accounts. They'll get notification emails about 6 hours before Vera's speech. Just enough time to verify the information and get very, very angry." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Vera would take the stage expecting to launch her new career, only to face an audience that included multiple victims of her crimes. The confrontation would be captured on live video, broadcast to hundreds of thousands of viewers, and preserved forever on the internet. What about Reid? Reid will be having his own problems tomorrow night. The FBI is planning to arrest him at his penthouse, but they don't know about his escape plan. We're going to make sure he doesn't make it to the airport. Jade showed me the final piece of her strategy. Reid's private jet was scheduled to depart from a small airfield outside Prague at midnight, but the flight plan, the pilot's credentials, and the aircraft registration were all fraudulent, another layer of Reid's criminal enterprise that Jade had documented and was ready to expose. The authorities will be waiting for him at the airport. No escape, no new identity, no hidden money to fund his legal defense. As the sun rose over Prague's ancient skyline, I felt a mixture of anticipation and unease. What we were planning went far beyond simple revenge. We were orchestrating the complete destruction of two people's lives using methods that were legally questionable at best. But then I thought about Jennifer Walsh, discovering that her trusted friend had stolen her identity. Patricia Morrison, realizing that her financial problems were caused by Vera's fraud. Susan Chen, learning that her ruined credit was the result of betrayal by someone she'd welcomed into her home. Vera and Reid had chosen to be predators. Tomorrow night, they'd learn what it felt like to be prey. "I'm in," I told Jade. "Let's finish this." The next 18 hours passed in a blur of preparation and execution. We infiltrated Reid's trading platform, documented his hidden assets, and prepared comprehensive evidence packages for federal investigators. We verified the fraudulent accounts Vera had opened, confirmed the identities of her victims, and arranged for the evidence to be delivered at precisely the right moment. By evening, everything was in place. Reid was at his penthouse, packing for his planned escape, unaware that federal agents were already surrounding the building. Vera was at the conference center, preparing for her speech, confident that she was about to launch a lucrative new career. Neither of them knew that their world was about to collapse. I positioned myself in the back of the conference hall, laptop open, monitoring the situation remotely. Jade was in her warehouse command center, coordinating the final phase of our operation. At exactly 7 p.m., the anonymous tips were sent to Vera's victims. At 7:30, the FBI received complete documentation of Reid's hidden assets and escape plan. At 8 p.m., Vera took the stage. She looked radiant under the spotlights, confident and polished, every inch the successful entrepreneur she was pretending to be. Her speech began smoothly, full of inspirational platitudes about female empowerment and financial independence. Then Jennifer Walsh stood up in the audience. "Excuse me," Jennifer's voice carried clearly through the hall. "I have a question about financial independence. Specifically, how does stealing other people's identities fit into your business model?" Vera's smile faltered for just a moment, but she recovered quickly. "I'm not sure what you're referring to. Perhaps we could discuss this after my presentation." "I'm referring to the credit card accounts you opened in my name, the loans you took out using my social security number, the thousands of dollars you stole from me while pretending to be my friend." A murmur ran through the audience. Other women were checking their phones, reading the evidence packages that had been sent to them. Patricia Morrison stood up next, then Susan Chen, then others. One by one, Vera's victims confronted her with the documentation of her crimes. The live stream audience watched in fascination as Vera's composure crumbled. She tried to deny the accusations, then to deflect blame onto Reid, then to simply escape the stage. But the evidence was overwhelming, the confrontation inevitable. Security tried to restore order, but it was too late. The story was already spreading across social media, the video clips going viral, Vera's reputation destroyed in real time. My phone buzzed with a message from Jade. "Reid's been arrested. Escape plan failed. Hidden assets seized. It's over." I closed my laptop and walked out into the Prague night, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Not satisfaction, not triumph, just the quiet peace that comes from seeing justice served. Vera and Reid had built their relationship on lies, theft, and betrayal. They'd destroyed lives, ruined friendships, and preyed on trust and innocence. Now they would face the consequences of their choices. My phone rang one final time. Jennifer Walsh calling from the conference center. "Damon, I don't know how you knew, but thank you for warning me, for helping me see the truth, for giving me the chance to confront her." "You don't need to thank me, Jennifer. You did the hard part." "What happens now?" I looked up at the stars, barely visible through Prague's light pollution, and thought about the future. For the first time in months, it looked bright. Now we move on. We rebuild. We remember that some people are worth trusting and some aren't, and we make sure we know the difference. After I hung up, I walked through Prague's quiet streets toward my apartment. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new possibilities. But tonight, the score was settled. Vera and Reid had wanted to play games with people's lives. They'd learned too late that some games have consequences they never anticipated. The underdog's reckoning was complete.